Okay, I'm back. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to make the head of our dinosaur, and we're going to attach it to the body that we made. So I'm going to put the little body aside. And the way I wrote my pattern is that I have 6 different character or animal heads that you could put on the same body. And this one, the shape of the head for the dinosaur is the same shape of the head for the unicorn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make the base of the head first, and then we'll make the features for the dinosaur and the unicorn, and then we'll sew them on, and then I'll have another video with the other head base shapes. But to start with, we're going to do the dinosaur because that's our project that we're working on. So what you're going to need is a ball of yarn. I have just a leftover chunk here from another project. You need quite a bit of stuffing. I used like 2 good sized handfuls of stuffing for each head, and you're going to need your 3.5 millimeter hook, a needle for sewing in the ends, a stitch marker, scissors, and a row count. I use this to count my rows. When you make all the head shapes, there's a few times where you have to keep track of your rows, and I lose count, so I use a counter every time. So we're just going to get started with the head base. We're going to start again with the magic circle. And in the magic circle, we're going to make 6 single crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And on these ones, I like to pull a little bit tighter and actually tie it off so this doesn't loosen up while I'm working on it, because the very center of our magic circle here ends up being the center of the dinosaur's nose, so I like it to stay a little bit tighter. And I don't put my marker in until I get to the next round, because doing this first round is always a little bit tight to start off with. So round 1 or row 1, we're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch around, so we'll have a total of 12. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Oh, what I did here. 11 and 12. And then for the next round, I'm going to put the stitch marker in. Still see it's a little loose. So round 2, we're going to do, sorry, that was round 2, 2 single crochets in each one. Round 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet and then increase in the next one all the way around. So we'll start out with the 1 single crochet, and now I'm going to use my stitch marker so I don't lose track of where I started. And then we're going to do increase in the next one, so that's 2 single crochets, 1 in the next one, 2 single crochets, 1 in the next one, 2 single crochets, and you do this all the way around. And 1, 2, 1, and at the end of this round now, oops, last round we increased in each one, so we had 12 stitches. At the end of this round, we're going to have 18. Round 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets, and then we're going to increase in the third one. So we'll start with the 1, that's 2 single crochets, then we're going to increase in the next one, then 1, 2, increase in the next one, 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase, 2, and increase in the last stitch. So now in rounds 5 through 8, we're only going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So do the first one, and here's where I use my row counter because I don't trust myself. Start out at 0. I've already done up to round 4. So now rounds 5 through 8, we're going to single crochet 1 in each stitch around. So you can go ahead and do that. You can have a piece of paper and just scratch down your row count as well. You don't have to have a counter. But I'm going to do rounds 5 through 8, and I'm going to meet you back here in just a minute. Okay, I'm back, and I've made up to row 8 now. You have, looks like a little cup, and what that is just the front part of the snout. Now we're going to do a increase halfway around so that we can have the little bridge where his forehead and his eyes are going to go. So in order to do that, we're going to start round 9 with 10 single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. After that, we're going to do 2 single crochets in each of the next 6 stitches. So each one of these next 6, we're going to have 2 in each. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we've made 12 stitches out of the 6, and after that we're going to single crochet 8 times to get back to the marker. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now we're at row 10. So row 10, we're going to do 10 single crochets, and then we'll do some more increasing. So that's 1, what's wrong with me here? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So this time for our increase, we're going to do increase in the first stitch, and then single crochet in the next one. Increase, single crochet all the way for 6 times. So each single crochet and increase is 1 time. So we'll do our increase and our single crochet. That's 1. Increase, single crochet, that's 2. Increase, single crochet, that's 3. Increase, single crochet, that's 4. Increase, single crochet, that's 5. And then increase, single crochet, that's 6. So if you go back and look at it, you can count it out if you like to. Otherwise, you'll know you have it right, because now we're going to do 8 single crochets again like we did in the last round. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now you can see we have the little brow, almost looks like a baseball cap that way, but going this way you have the little ridge where his this is his snout, and now we're making the larger part of the head. So now for rows 11 through 16, we're only going to do a single crochet in each stitch around. So I'll start it off here. That's 1. I didn't advance my row counter either. That was 9 and 10. So we're going to do rounds 11 to 16, 1 single crochet in each round, and I'm going to meet you back here when you're done. Okay, I'm back, and I'm at I finished row 16. You can see now you have a little snout, and then you have the little forehead. It's where the eyes are going to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start decreasing around to make the back part of the head. So the first thing we do on round 17 is we're going to single crochet 5, and then we're going to do a decrease. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to do a decrease. It's single crochet 2 together. You just pull up the 2 loops and then you go through both. So it's 1, 2, same as we did for the hands and the feet. 4, 5, decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then decrease. When we get to the end, we're going to have 1 extra stitch. We're not going to worry about that. 3, 4, 5, and then decrease, and then just do the last one. And that's row 17. Row 18, we're going to single crochet 4, and then we'll do a decrease. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and we continue this all the way around. Let's decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shouldn't have picked a round ball of yarn here. And then decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, and then just the last stitch by itself. That was round 18. For round 19, we're just going to single crochet all the stitches around. Give it a little bit of depth. Might as well just keep rolling here while I do all the stitches around. You can pause. You can pause at any time and catch up if I'm going too fast, or here and there, or speed it up if I'm going too slow, whatever you're most comfortable with. I hope I'm just going at an average speed here. I have to also apologize for the scratches all over my hands. I have a 5-month-old kitten named Mr. Bojangles, and he's still at the scratchy bitey stage. I noticed when I look back at my other video, there's scratches. All right, so that's the end of row 19. Now we're at row 20. This time we're going to decrease again. We're going to do 3 single crochets and then a decrease. So that was 1, 2, 3, and then decrease. Right there. 1, 2, 3, decrease. 1, 2, 3, decrease. Almost done. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then decrease. Don't forget that last stitch in there. Row 21, we're going to single crochet 2 before we decrease. You can notice when you get here that the hole's getting smaller now. We're making the back part of the head, so it's gonna have a little bit of roundness to it. So this time we do 2, and then we're gonna put some stuffing after this. So 2 single crochets, 1 decrease, 2 single crochets, 1 decrease, one, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease. And there's that extra stitch in there. Oh, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm going to pull a little extra string up there. So now we're going to give it a good amount of stuffing. Make sure that you get lots in the snout, because you won't be able to reach down there after the next round. It gets a little tight. See what I mean? It takes a good size handful of or 2 of stuffing. Push it down around the sides, make sure it gets filled nice and evenly. And then after the next round, we're going to put a little bit more stuffing in there. So I leave a little bit loose, but you can see his forehead. I see I'm missing some stuffing in that spot there. I might go push some down in there to even it out. And you can see the shape. The snout is a little loose. It's more like 3 handfuls of stuffing. There, it's good, nice and full. Now we're going to decrease again in the next round. This time we're going to have 1 single crochet and then a decrease. Now, like I was saying, when I do the hands and the feet, now that there's some stuffing in there, I do tend to pull it a little bit tighter. And I put my fingers in behind so I don't catch the stuffing as well as the yarn. So I put my hook in there. My piece of felt is moving here. So that was 1 single crochet. Now we're going to do a decrease. And then 1 single crochet, decrease. What am I doing? Crochet, decrease. You notice it a little bit more on the bigger pieces if you do it too loose. So I like to pull it a little bit tighter. That was 1 single crochet, then decrease. 1 single crochet, then decrease. And then that last one. Pull up some extra string. Now I'm going to take my stitch marker out because I don't need it for the last round. The last round is just single crocheting 2 together, and now I'm going to put some more stuffing in. I want the back side of his head, because on this guy both the back side and the front side show. Mostly when you do the round heads, one side's going to be hidden by the getting sewn on the body, but this time you're going to see both of them. One last little divot here. All right, well, this took extremely long amount of time. Okay, Now we're just going to do single crochet 2 together all the way around, and that's for a total of 6 times. So we're going to do 2 together, and here I do pull it a little tighter. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm pulling too tight now, I'm messing it up here. 4, 5, 6, and if you see there's still that little extra hole there, you can even do 1 more. Do the last piece through here, and then I do my little chain 2. You don't use this string to tie the head, to sew the head onto the body, so you don't need a really long string, just something long enough to hide inside. Give it a really nice tight pull, and again you have this little knobby thing showing here on the outside. I'm going to sew that in the same way as I did with the hands. Right immediately in the hole immediately close to it, I'm going to put the needle in, go through the stuffing, and then somewhere out the side there, then you can give it a nice little tug and hide it in. And you can come right back up through the stuffing, and you can hide the rest of those poofy little string pieces you get in there. That looks nice. Then you do just a couple of looser. You don't want to pull too tight because you have dimples in it then. You don't want to make dimples. And that is the shape for the dinosaur head. Well, I'm getting that in there right. I have, we're going to make the features for it now. I've gone ahead and I've made another one earlier, so I'll show you the features for both the dinosaur and the unicorn. But first the dinosaur, because that's what we've been working on. I'm just going to get my green yarn as my contrast color to make the horns and the eyes. I think I might make the inside of the eyes blue, and I might make the eyelids green. You can do whatever whatever suits you. So now we're going to put that aside. Again, we're going to use our size 3.5 millimeter hook for the horn. We need to make 3 of these. So I'll show you how to make the first one, and then you can do the other 2 and we'll come back. So you're going to make a magic circle again, and in this time in the magic circle we're only going to put 4 single crochets. So I never count the joining one because I don't like that little knot to put my hook in. So I start here with 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, you close the circle. I always give it an extra little tight knot because I like it to be a good little peak. Sometimes people just hide the yarn when you go around, but I find sometimes that that loosens it up. You can tell how many stitches you have also if you count backwards from 1, 2, 3, 4. You know this is where you're going to be going in the next round is going to start there. So I'm going to put my stitch marker in after I start the next round. So what you're going to do now is we're going to do a single crochet, an increase, a single crochet, and an increase. So at the end of this round we're going to have 6 stitches. So first I'll do my single crochet, my little marker guy, and then the next stitch we're going to increase. These little tiny things are a little bit fussy whenever you start, but you get used to it quick enough. And when I do this, I tend to try to pop it out as I go because I don't want it to get turned inside out. So that was 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, and then this last one's going to be an increase. Come a little closer to the camera here. And now we have a total of 6 stitches going around. And then for round 3, I don't know why I'm calling them rows here, but for round 3, we're going to do a single crochet around each of the 6 stitches. So that was 1. I know I probably could just count here, but I used my stitch marker. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can see it start to poke out there a little bit now. Round 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets before we increase. So we're going to have a total of 8 stitches after. So that was 1. It's getting much easier now. 2 single crochets, then we're going to increase, then 2 single crochets. I guess if I hold it up this way, you can see the stitches better that way that I'm going through here, and that's going to be my increase. Now I have a total of 8 stitches. For round 5, we're going to single crochet around all of the 8 stitches here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then round 6, we're going to single crochet 3, and then we're going to increase. There's 1 around. 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, and then increase. And that's the end of our first horn. You can tuck the other tail right inside the horn there. And then I'm just going to slip stitch and do my little chain 2 thing before I tie it off. And in this case, you are going to use the tail on this to sew it in, so you want to leave at least a little 8 or 10 inches on the end of your tail, and that will be horn. That's the horn that's gonna go on his head there. So that's kind of cute. Now you're going to make 2 more like that, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to do the eyes. Okay, I'm back. I've made my 3 horns. You can add a little bit of stuffing inside the horns if you like, if you want them to stand up stiffly. You don't have to, if you don't want to. I just shoved a little bit in there for now. So we're going to put those aside, and now we're going to make the back of the eyes. I've decided now, I think I'm just going to make them both green. The front, the back of the eyes and the eyebrows, I guess they call them eyelids or eyebrows. I'm not even sure which ones they are. So again, we're going to need the 3.5 millimeter hook, and we're going to need the yarn of your choice. I also do use this little ball of black that I have had around forever. It's a little bit thinner, and it works great for the eyes and for sewing in the nose. Sometimes if it's too thin, I just do an extra round of stitch with it. So you can do the same yarn as you have, just whatever scraps of black you have around to do the features. So we're going to make a magic circle, and this time it's going to have 6 single crochets in it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, tie it up. And this one, all we're going to do is we're going to increase in each stitch around. So each of these 6 stitches, you're going to do 2 single crochets. So again, I'm not going to use my stitch marker for this because I'm just going to count it out. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12. And that's going to be it for the back of the eyeball. You're going to slip stitch into the next, and then you're going to tie it off. Again, you're going to leave yourself a little string for sewing it on, and we're going to tie that off. Also, I like to sew in my end. The other end for the horns, we were able to just tuck it in there, but the end that we're not going to be sewing on, the face with, I like to just tuck that in right away. Just get it in there a couple of times. And you're going to have to make 2 of these. You can make the other one, and I'll come right back and I'll show you how to make the inside. Alright, I'm back to make the inside little black circle for the eye. I'll put down a piece of white paper so hopefully you can see it on, instead of just doing it on my black. But the inside of the eye is very tiny. We're just going to do a magic circle, and we're going to put 6 single crochets in it. That's 1. Keep wanting to pull closer to myself here. That's 2, 3, 4, 5. Of course, mine's going to be tinier because the strand of the yarn I'm using is a little bit thinner. But you're going to tie it, close the magic circle, tie it up, make it nice and tight so there's no holes in there. And then once you find, I'm going to come up really close here because I'm using black. Once you find the first loop of the first single crochet that you made, make sure you get through both sides of it. You're going to just slip right into that stitch, and then you're going to tie it off. Leave yourself a little 6 or 8 inch tail there to sew it in, and you're going to close it off. And of course, get rid of my extra little string here. This is so tiny. I just kind of pop it through once, and then once again on the other side. I can tie that off. It's not like you can hide it in the back while you're sewing it on either, because it's so tiny. And this is going to fit on the inside of your eyeball like that. So since that one was so quick, I'm not even going to turn the camera off. I'm just going to make the next one. I should have probably prepared it ahead of time. So you make a magic circle, you make 6 single crochets. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You don't have to pull them super tight or anything like that even. I'm going to give it a little knot. And then once you turn it around, working with black is the worst, but if you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see the little bumps there that you got to pull through. Pick up your yarn and just slip it in, and then do my little chain 2 move, tie it off, and then sew this in. The last thing we have to make for the face is the little eyelids. So we'll just get right to them. Oh. pop it out here a little bit. Now my two eyeballs are going to have the black part. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the eyelids, and that's not going to be a magic circle for a change. We're just going to make a little slip knot. Of course, I always add my extra knots, and I'm going to chain 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then in this second chain from the hook, we're going to do half double crochets. I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to do it anyway, but it's yarn over, and then the first one's tough. Pull up a loop, and then through all 3 of them. And you're going to do that all the way down the line here, so you'll have 8 altogether. 3, 4, and that's basically the eyelid. I didn't want to make it double crochets because that might be too flimsy. I like the half double crochets because they're a little bit more sturdy. And then when you get to the end of the row, that's what it looks like. You're just going to, whoops, tie it off. And again, you're going to leave a little string for sewing it on. I always say leave 6 or 8 inches, and then I leave 10 or 12. I'm going to hide my other little string in the back here. Oops. It's not going to show because the eyelid's going to be facing the other way, but I just try to make it a little bit neat. And then we're going to make the other eyelid. Just going to do a slip knot. I know I probably should turn the camera off and start it up again, but it's easier just to continue. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we're going to half double crochet in the second, not the first one, but the second loop from the hook, and then the rest of the way back. It's 3, 4. I think when we're finished, we have 8, 7, and 8. Oh. We're going to tie it off, leave a little string, sew in our end. So now for the assembly of the head, what I like to do again is take another little piece of my black string. I'll tell you this while I'm sewing in my end here. And I like to try to mark the place where I'm going to sew things, because I don't always get it right the first time. So what I do is I place little yarn markers around. Now I'm going to go back to my little head statue here. I'm going to take another couple of strings here. I'll show you how I need one for the horns too. So I'm guessing I'm going to put my eyes right along the ridge. I guess I should sew it first, but the eyes are going to go here right along the ridge. So I'm going to mark how far apart I'd like them to be. So say this is the ridge, I'm going to go back 2 rows, and I'm going to, so I'll put my little marker here. Then I know I'm going to leave about 3 stitches in between, and I'm going to put the other eye right here. Just helps me have a gauge of where I'd like my eyes to be. That's more the top side of the eye. What we should do, sew the backs and the front of the eye together before we start. I'm going to put it right up the back there so I lose my little knot I had, and then I'm going to put it down towards the bottom of the eye, and I'm going to stick the needle through the black and the green at the same time, and then I'm just going to kind of go around, make sure I get through the edges of the stitches like this so that it doesn't curl up at the ends. Get the green and the black in there. And I do sew it down towards the bottom of the backing. You can put it right in the center, you can put it anywhere, any way you like. Just like to make sure that it's tied down there. I see one more little stitch there. Give it a nice tight little tug, and then I'll just knot it in the back and hide the thread back here. We're not gonna make sure that didn't go through the front. We're not gonna see the black string anyway. There we go. Oh, I have this weird knotty thing on the front of my eye. My video might be getting a little too long. I might cut out the part where I'm repeating stuff, but for now, I'm just gonna sew the little eye on here. Go through at least a couple of different threads there. Make sure it's on tight. It's not going to lift up. And come back down at the bottom here. I see I missed this little stitch here. And that's going to be that. A little knot. Sewing in ends is like the least fun thing to do. That's why I like to do it as I go along. Everybody has their own preference. Okay, now I have my eyes. I think I put my stitch, my markers up a little high here, so I'm going to sew them. More down towards the edge. I'm going to thread my needle. And I always I hate this little ridge that you get there, so I always try to put my first stitch through that and tug it around so it looks more like the part of the circle. And I'm going to make this the top part of my eye. I'd like them to sit a little bit more on the ridge there. So I'm just going to start with the, I don't want to go through the black. Let's get them started like that. And the only thing you have to do is make sure that when you're sewing it, you're not making too many crazy stitches on the front. So I always try to just make sure I come through the very edge of these stitches. So when I'm coming back, I'm coming through the edge. I hope I got my thing up here, and then I go through the two at the back here. I make sure I get both sides of the stitch. And then as you're sewing it, you have to make sure that you're keeping it straight. It's easy to fumble with it and make the little dot end up over here or something. So I'm trying to make sure every stitch or so that I'm making sure it's straight. And then by sewing it this way, you do give it a nice little tug, and then you can't see the strings around so much. There's so many videos out there on how to do all this stuff. I'm just showing you the way I do it. I learned by watching videos myself. Make sure that my last one goes in quite tight. You can take this other string out as you get it sewed on. There we go. Now that I'm finished, I'm going to make a knot, and then I'm going to hide the strand that I'm sewing with. I like to always have a nice length of yarn when I'm sewing in, because I like to hide it in the back of the head a few times. So now you see I got again this little knot here. I'm going to push it right back, right in behind there. Oh geez. And then I'm going to come out somewhere up here. You just have to make sure when you come out, you go back in the same spot, or else you're going to have a little green dot. But I like to give it a nice little tug, and everything's hidden in behind. And then I'm going to go right back in the same spot. And I'm going to loosely, very loosely, because you don't want to have a dimple either. You see how the green's gone? And then I'm going to do it one more time. Doesn't matter where you come out, you're going to cut it off. Again, very gentle. And then give it one little bit of a tug before you cut it off, and then it gets hidden inside and you can't see. Now my next eye is going to go, I feel like I'm going too far down from the camera. And again, I'm going to start out with hiding my little knot. I didn't leave as nice long of a string on this one, but then you can decide. Usually I try to have like 3 little stitches in between, so that I can leave that that middle one. So this guy's eye is going to go probably up to there. So we're going to start sewing him in right here. The first few stitches that you do are the ones that are trickiest. There we go. See, now I realize I'm a little bit too close. I'm going to push over a little bit. You do have a little bit of wiggle room while you're sewing it in here. Come in this guy. You can take your other marker out there now too. Make sure I'm getting there at the top. Now I have more like 2 stitches in between. I might come back over this way a bit. Just continue to go around. I see my little circle on this one. I flattened it out a little more than the other. I guess that's the uniqueness of making handmade crafts. Oh. Just make sure you give it enough stitches around so that it's nice and flat, and it's not gonna lift up. Now, I don't like the way this little corner goes here, so I'm going to pull it and kind of pull down a little bit on that. Go back under. Oh, that doesn't look too cross-eyed. All right, next we're going to do our knot. string I left was a little bit shorter. Make that as nice and close as I can, and then I'm going to hide it in between. This time I'm going to come out under here. That one you're going to give a nice little tug so you can't see. I see one little string, but that's not bad. Make sure you're going in through the stuffing because that helps to keep the yarn hidden in its place. And then do very gentle. One little tug and then it's hidden in, and that's our eyeballs. They came out kind of cute. Next, I don't know why I prefer to put the horns on before I put the eyebrows or the eyelids. I'm not very good at those. Sometimes I think I could just leave them right off and it wouldn't hurt my feelings. So this case, the horns, I like them to touch each other, and I like the back one to go more towards the back of the head. So situate them, you're going to situate them right between the eyes. And if you like, you can just start sewing, or you can do a little marking for where they're going to go. And then that can just help to guide you. You can do any number of ways. You can do the middle one first and then guide the other ones. I'm just going to go for it. And I like the horns to each touch each other. They don't have to have any space in between them. It's just this kind of sewing everything in just gets a little fussy because everything's so small. But I'm going to tuck that in, and I'm going to hide that, put that towards the back. So now you decide how close you want it. Don't forget, we still have to put his little eyebrows on. So I'm going to go back a little bit further. And the same as when I'm going to just sew the first one on here with you. The same as when you do the eyes. You just want to give the first piece that you sew in a nice firm tug. It actually looks like a little Christmas tree. And then make sure that you're positioning it where you want it. So I do the first one at the back, and then I do situate it where I want it to go. And then I go around these stitches. So I'm going to go through here, keep my stuffing in there for the top row, and then at the head base, I'm going to go through like this. You can do it all in one stitch if you like. I was just for demonstrating purposes. Come back out here, and then you go back in here and around. The whole time, make sure that you're keeping it as even to the middle as you can. I see I'm heading towards this side a little too much as I'm sewing. So now I'm going to have to go, when I go do the other side, I'm going to go right back through that same thing. I'm going to make sure I get some extra stitches. Oh, I shouldn't have went through that one. Let's back out of that. I should have went through this one. And then I'm going to go even one stitch over. Come more at the side. Now when I hold them in front of me here, I'm trying to get the middle of the horn right where the black thread is, right between his eyes. And go, it might be too far. Just takes a little bit of fussing. If you ever find that you put one on and you don't like it, you just have to lift it up a little bit and pull the thread back out all the way around. I've done it dozens of times. There we go. Now I'm going to tie it off, but I'm going to take my last stitch and pull it towards the back so that it's not showing my little knot in the front. Do that knot. There you go. Now that's well hidden. Do my nice loose little, I shouldn't be going so close to those black strands because I want to pull that out after I'm done. But that's the first horn. Then when you're going to, oh, I didn't pull it now. When you're putting the next one on, you want to make sure that this one's touching this one and going back in the same straight line. And then this one will be coming down the back of the head a little bit more like that. So go ahead and sew these other two horns on, and I'll come back and show you how to do the eyelids. Okay, now I have my 3 horns sewn on. You can see I've kind of attached them to each other. I think they're kind of straight. They have a little bit of stuffing in them, and they come right down to the back of the base of the head. Now, you could be finished your dinosaur guy right now. You don't have to put the eyelids on. I like it both ways, but I'm going to show you how to do the eyelids just because I put them in the pattern. So each little eyelid here is got a nice finished edge here where the stitches are nice and neat, and the other one looks like a little bumpy. So I always try to make sure that this is the one that's facing the front. So in that case, I have to take my thread or my tail, and I'm going to sew it down through the edge here because I want to make this the bottom part where I'm sewing. These are the stitches that I'm going to sew along the eye, so it just looks like a little bit neater. Now you can place them in any way you like. You can have them more to the outside, right over the center, more on the inside. I think he looks a little mean when you put them both on the inside like that, but I try to I don't mark it or anything. I just try to start about halfway. So I'm going to start by going right in behind the eye here. I don't make sure I'm catching some white, and I'm just about, oh, look at this. I'm gonna have to go back and tack that on. I didn't do a good job sewing that black piece on there. So now I'm going to start right about this side. I want to give a nice good tug just to make this look a little neater. I'm going to come back at the end and I'm going to tack this right down so it's the front is more closed in. It's not sticking up so much. So what I'm going to do is tuck it in behind the eye, and then I'm going to start coming through these little little stitches here. There are 2 sides to it, if you can see, from here and here and here. So I came through this one. Now I'm going to go back out through this one, and I'm going to try and keep it as close to the green part of the eye as I can. Make sure you catch some white as you're going around. And I'm going to come back through the next 2. This one. You can bunch it up a little bit at the top here too if you like. It's entirely up to you. I'm just sewing it straight on. It's a little bit loose to start with, but once you give it a tug, the whole thing fits right underneath. Come back through this one. And again through this one. It's basically just straight stitching it. And you can decide where you want it to end and begin and everything like that. I'm going to try and stick close to his eye here. Now, the reason I leave it a little bit close to the, I'm not quite halfway around. I am going to pull the top piece here. Let's see. Now, this is the edge. I don't know if you can see this very well here, but this is the edge that we had from when we created the half double crochets. I don't want it to sit lifted up like this, so I'm going to take this top stitch here, oops, here, and I'm going to pull that down so that it tuck it right underneath the eye. There you go. So see how it sits nice and more flush there. It's not sticking up so much. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go back in behind, come back up for a knot. Okay, I realized at the end of my previous video take that the camera shut off before I got to the end of sewing on this eyelid. So what I'm going to do is show you on the other one. So this is the eyelid that we made with the half double crochets. One side of it has a very nice finished edge with the little V shape of the stitches you can see. The other one just looks a little bit more like loops, although there are two sides to them. You can see when we're going to sew through both of these strands so that we don't have big pulling open holes in case it gets tugged on later on. So this is going to be the bottom part where we sew, and the top part is what's going to show. So the yarn was coming out here. I've just threaded it through to the bottom so we can start sewing from this side here. So I'm going to pull it through, and then on this eyelid I didn't sew it half and half. I ended up doing a little bit more on the right hand side, so now I have to make sure when I'm doing this one that I match it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here. It does get pulled down a little bit when we tuck that end in, so I'm going to start here. I think that's high enough. And then I'm going to come through, make sure I come through both sides of that stitch. And then when we finish this one, we're going to be tugging that down so it'll match around there. And then we're going to come back through, making sure we pick up both loops on there. We're going to stay as close to the green as you can, and make sure, keep coming off the camera here, make sure that you get some white in the stitch as well. We want it to be as strong as possible. Then we're going to come back through these two. We'll do quite a few stitches around to make it nice and secure. Came through that one, so I'm going to come up this one. We'll go back through this one. This way we're giving it a nice smooth edge here on the outside. You can't see where we're sewing it. So that's why I take a little bit of care when I'm sewing it around that side. It's a handmade item. If you make little boo-boos as you go along, that's half of the rustic look anyway, isn't it? I'll go through this one. And then when we get to the end, the last stitch here, I'm gonna back up a little bit here. Try and make sure I match it the same as on that side. What we want to make sure is that we get the bottom of this. This is the chain 3 anyways, it's not the actual half double crochet, but we don't want this edge to be flopping on there, so we take the bottom first and we sew that in like we normally would, but then we're going to come back through the top. Make it a little bit closer. We're going to come back through the top here, and we're going to be pulling that down and poke that through the last stitch here. Just make sure you catch some white in there, and we're going to be pulling that down, and then we're going to go right back up in the same spot again. Make sure we give it a nice little tug, and then that way it just gradually goes right into the edge, and it's not a floppy edge like this one. We're going to come back through the eye, and we're going to be pulling this one down over here. So first I'm going to do my little knot. And then I'm going to poke right through here and come right out on this side. Oh, it's kind of a little too far down. Right where I want that to work with. So when you do this side, you're going to give it a little bit of a tug, and then everything just gets pulled down nice into here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these two strings. I'm ignoring this little knot here. I'm going to pull those two, and I'm going to come down the base of it here. I'm going to pull that right through. I think I'm going to match if I pull it through here, and I'm going to go right back up in there again and pull that top piece down. See, I have a little bit of a gap there still, but I'm gonna go back through to the back over here before I make my knot, so it's not another knot on a knot. I'll just do I'm going to be sewing the knot in. Sometimes I leave my little tail there too long and it's not coming all the way through. There we go. And then we're going to go right back through there. We're going to pop out all the way over here somewhere on the opposite side again, so we can tug that, tug tight that little knot here. And then we're going to tie in this tail here, but we're going to do it loosely. You go right back in the same hole, and you come out somewhere else. Go through the stuffing very lightly. Oh, I don't like splitting the threads either, because sometimes the green might show after. So we're just going to do very lightly. I'm going to do one more time. Just very lightly. We're going to give this a little tug before you snip it, and then it pulls it right back in. So there you go. That's the eyes. Next, we're going to need another little piece of the black thread, or yarn, I guess you would call it. We're going to just sew him some little nostrils over here. So you don't really have to mark the spot, because you can just eyeball it. I'm going to thread the needle. I don't know why I take such a long piece of thread. It's probably not necessary. I'm going to put my white paper down here again, because you can't see my black thread on the black. So what we're going to do is we're going to see, this is the very center of his nose, and we're going to have one nostril coming this side and one nostril coming that side on either side of the center of the nose. So I'm going to go in this way first, and I'm going to come out, I think that's, well, looks about right. It looks like it's going to be big, but by the time you tug the yarn, it will make it look a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to come out this side. I left 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 5th hole over. I'm hoping this is going to match up. And then I want to come out on the other side of the circle where we made our little magic circle in about the same spot. Oh, that thread doesn't want to split. And then what you're going to do is you're going to come right back out the same hole here. My yarn is a little bit thinner, so I might go over it twice, like I was saying, just to make it a little bit more noticeable. That's what they're going to look like after, but you could stop there and tie it off and tuck the tails in, but I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to give this a little tug so that one looks longer. You can just play around with it that way. So I'm just giving it another round to makes it look a little bit thicker. And then make sure you come back out the same hole that you went in with this one, because we're going to tie them together before we tuck them in. And there we go. Maybe could have left a little bit of a longer thread. I like to give it a snug tuck there. I don't want that little knot to show anywhere. So what we're going to do, probably can cut some of this off. I made it way too long. What we're going to do is we're going to pull the needle down until we can put both ends through the needle at the same time. My guy's rolling. We want both ends through the needle. I keep tisking. And there we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to tuck the needle right back through that spot, and we're going to come out over here. We just want to make sure that we get the both strands through the first time, and then you can pull that through. If you can, there, now it looks nice and clean. It'll be off center a bit. Now what you can do is, if you can get this shorter strand through another time, then try and get it through another time, because it's better to have it tucked through there twice. And then you can just pull the longer. I'm pulling the wrong side. And we're gonna give this shorter one a little tug, and then it will be gone. And then the longer one, you can just tuck it in a couple of more times, and that will be the end of our dinosaur guy. There he is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to attach him to the body. Remember, I was showing you I had this little opening for the head, just to give it a little bit more of grabbing onto, I guess you can call it, on the head. It's still going to be floppy because it's a flat piece of fabric with this, but he kind of looks cute here. So next, what we're going to have to do is take our marking strings again, and we're going to mark where we want the head to sit on here. We need to, remember we had 4 stitches in each corner. We're going to sew like 4 stitches on this side, 4 here, 4 here, and 4 here in a little diamond shape. So I like to mark where I want it to go, so the head's not looking left or right. So I'm going to say the part of the head that I'm going to sew in here, directly down from the snout, I'm going to go, kind of like this one better, through this way in a straight, because these are little spirals that you were having when you were crocheting around, because we weren't stopping at the end of each row, so it kind of looks like it's going on a little diagonal. So you just got to work within that. And then I'm going to make another cross stitch, but on the cross stitch I want to make sure that I can sew 4 chains in there. So I do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to do this going the other way. I guess I better thread the yarn through. And that just gives you a marking to eyeball it, so you don't sew the head on, like I said, facing left or right. And then each of these little spots in between here, you're going to do 1/4 of this. That's the way I do it. I hope it makes sense. And I cut a extremely large piece of yarn. I don't think you should listen to me when I say 2 feet. So I don't know if you have one front or back that you prefer, but this looks more like a front to me. So I'm going to start at this corner, which means I'm going to start at this corner here, because I want his head to sit that way. So I'm going to start in this corner. Excuse me, I'm talking too much today. Of course, everything we're doing here gets a little fussy because it's small, but I'm going to pull this here. Now, let's get rid of my white paper here so I can turn this way. Now, what we're going to be doing is going through, make sure you go through both sides of the V shape of the stitch that you're coming through. This gets a little bit easier as everything else as you sew it along. And then Got my head turned the wrong way. And then when you're going to come back out this stitch, you want to make sure you're heading towards this corner here. So we're going to be going in this direction. And when you're sewing both of these threads through, it just leaves a nice little edge, I guess you want to call it. I'm going to come back through these 2 stitches. I'm going to go back in this one. We're going to be coming right up to that next point. You can give it a little bit more of a tug as you go. It doesn't have to be super tight to start. And we're going to come, in this case, when I get to the center, I'm on the center one here, I'm going to go right back through that same stitch to give myself more room, I guess you could call it, to get from this corner to the shoulder top. Remember, we put that extra stitch in the edge there, so we can use that. So I'm going to come back out this side, and now we're moving between this stitch and that stitch. So we're going to go in here and out there, and just make it as close as you can as you're going through. Like I said, these little things are not in a straight line because we were working in the round. So you go back out through the next one, and because we're just doing the straight stitch, you can leave it loose while you sew and then tighten it up as you finish one section or however you feel comfortable. Now we're going to go in this one to here, and then the last one we're going to come out this little stitch here. And see how they're a little bit loose? You can give it a little tug. And come back out this one. And now I'm on that extra stitch that we created here, so we're going to come do this little guy here. Next, my stuffing's in the way. Next, we're working on this little corner from here to here, and we're going from here to here. So I'm going to go back out. I came in this one. I'm going to go back out this one. And then as you finish that first piece, you can hold it up and see that the head is pretty much center. And then before you finish the head is pretty much, I'm going like this. The head is pretty much center. When you get to the very back too, you can take another double check that he's still in the center, so his head's not turned one way or the other. That's what I meant by having him crooked like this. So now I'm going between this black line and this black line, and I'm going to go off in a kitty corner here. And then we'll go back in here, and I hadn't tugged it tight there, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a tug. You can do up and down the stitch and then sideways through the stitch, whatever works for you. Now coming up to the back where we're going to use the same stitch on the way back again. So we're going to go out here right into the next little black marking spot, marker. And now we're going to be going from this marker to that marker. So you want to give it a little tug and go. Well, I came through this side of the stitch. I don't know if you can see that or not. I came through this side of the stitch. I'm going right back through that same stitch again. Otherwise, I'm going to run out of in and out through the last little area here. So we're going to go like this. Marking right up to here, and then we're going to go down. I don't like to do it all in one motion. I like to come out this side and then put it through. If you're confident to do it the other way, I just feel like I'm going to miss one of these loops or something on my way through. Now I'm going to back up again through the same one because I got an extra little bit here. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull out my markers. Before I sew up this last one, because it can be a last opportunity, if his head looks like it's going this way or that way, it's a last opportunity that you can pull it one way or the other before you close up that last little stitch there. But I'm going to say that he looks fine, and then I'm going to close up the last little loop here and come right back through the same one here. And this is where we're going to make our knot, and then we'll tuck the knot inside the head. Just try to make it as neat as I can. So you can see my little knot on that side. I'm going to try and pick up that. Pick up everything. Now I'm going to give this a little bit of a tug, and you can go back around and see if you left it loose anywhere. You might want to go back and give it a little tug as you like. So I'm just going to pull on this side, and then I'm going to, oh jeez, my little loop-de-loo. Pull it as tight as I can. Give another knot. The only thing holding his head on is this little knots here. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go right up inside his head and hide our yarn. And that is the little dinosaur head. I'm not going to do the instructions again for sewing the heads on every different character, so you can come back. Maybe I'll put some timestamps on the beginnings of the heads that I'm making, and say if you want to see the instructions on how to sew the head on, go to this time stamp. So this, there he is. That's our little dinosaur guy. I think he came out kind of cute. You can share them with your friends, share my video with people. Now I'm going to continue on the video. I'm going to use the same head shape. I've made an extra one here. This exact same head shape makes the unicorn. So now I'm going to do the instructions on how to make the features for the face of the unicorn. I don't have a little unicorn body yet to put it on, but I'm just going to show how to make the accents for the unicorn. You can go back to the instructions for the body if you want to know how to make the body again. Maybe I'll timestamp everything, I don't know. Okay, so now my unicorn guy is going to be pink, of course. All unicorns don't have to be pink. You can make it as colorful as you like. The little curly things, you can make them every different one a different color. You can make the ears a different color from the horn, whatever pattern you like. This is just the way I did the sample that I made in the it's a little bit of a thinner yarn, but it's the same idea. I just used a multicolor for the curls on the top of the head. But I'm going to show you how to do the horn, the ears, the curls, and then we're going to sew the eyes on there. And that's the little unicorn guy. So we're going to start by making the horn. We're going, I should say, to make the unicorn head, we're going to need the yarn color of your choice. We're going to need some of the black to do the, to make the eyes. We're going to need the scissors, the needle, the 3.5 millimeter hook. I don't believe we need the row counter, but we might like our little stitch marker again. And, all right, that's about it. We're going to make the horn first. We're going to start with a magic circle. And we're going to do 4 single crochets in the magic circle. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to close it up. Let's give it a little knot. I'm not going to use my stitch marker in the first round because it's a little tight and fussy. But just so you know, if you can't tell where you're supposed to start, you can count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you know you're going to start in this. Oh, I might have tightened that a little too much. Well, it's going to be my first stitch. I'm going to loosen that up a little bit. So in this second round, we're going to do 1 single crochet and then 1 increase. So that's 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then 1 increase. Now you can see it's starting to turn in on itself. We need it to be facing the other way. So I'm going to take my fingertip and push it out that way. Now you can see the stitches here. So now we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we are. In this round, we're going to do just 6 single crochets. So I had to count backwards because I couldn't tell the definition of that stitch here. So we're just going to do 6 single crochets around. This time I'm going to mark it. That was 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if I need to come a little closer so you can see, 5 and 6. The next round is round 4. We're going to do 2 single crochets and then 1 increase twice. So we're going to do 1, mark it, 2 single crochets and then increase, and then 2 single crochets and then increase in the last one. And then in round 5, we're going to do a single crochet in each stitch around, which is going to be 8 stitches. So that's 1. You can kind of, it's time to tuck this thing in here so it's out of our way. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you like your horn to be taller, you can make it do 2 rounds of 8 single crochets there if you like. The next round we're going to do single crochet 3 and then increase. That was 1, 2, 3, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch. And that's going to be the end of our horn. If you like, I'll show you what it's going to look like on the head here. If you want it to stand up taller, you can do another round of single crochets, or you can just tie it off now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip into the next stitch, and then I'm going to do my little chain 2. I'm going to leave enough of a tail for us to sew it in, so I always do too much anyway, but we'll do 6 or 8 inches is going to be fine. And then I do like to give the horn a little, oh, see what I did here? I knotted right into that. I like to give the horn a little bit of stuffing so it's nice and perky. Oh, I might have put a little too much in there. You just got to roll it around with your fingers to get it to stay in there. And that's going to be it. I might need to take a little bit of that stuffing out. There we go. And the next thing we're going to go make are the ears. We're going to need 2. I'm going to make the ears the same color as the horn, so we'll do pink again. This time we're going to make a magic circle with single crochets in it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Tighten it up. My little fancy knot. I like to do that knot so that it's nice and very closed off. When it's a tiny little pointy tip like that, it's hard if it starts to open up again. So now I'm going to go and make 2 single crochets, and then I'm going to increase. So I'm going to make sure I go back 6 here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this time I'm going to put my little stitch marker in because it's a little fussy when you're doing the 2 single crochets and then increase. So that's 1. And then you also have to make sure that you're only doing in this stitch, because when they're so tiny it pulls back a little bit, so you don't want to do another one right there. You want to make sure you do a proper stitch there and push it out as you go. So that's 2 single crochets. Now 1 increase, which is 2 single crochets in 1. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets again, and then increase in the last stitch here. And that's round 2. The next round is going to be single crochet around all 8 stitches. Move my stuff out of my way here. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now it's getting a little easier to work with. This time we're going to single crochet 3, and then we're going to increase. So that will be 1, 2, 3, and then increase. 1 single crochet, 2, 3, and then increase in the last one. Just shove my little end in here. In the next round we're going to single crochet around all 10 stitches. We're actually going to do that for the next 2 rows, row 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got extras in there. 9 and 10. And do that one more time, and then our little ears will be done. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And that's going to be the size of your ear. Just roll it around at the top to make sure it stays flat, and that the the inside peak there is not tucked in. And we're going to just do the, maybe I'll do it right this time. That's why I put my finger in behind. Last time I missed that. Just slip into there, do my little chain 2, leave a tail for sewing, and then tighten it up. So you're going to make a second ear, and then we're going to come right back. Okay, I'm back. While I was making my other ear, I decided that I am going to make the curls different colors. So I grabbed 4 different colors of yarn because I'm going to be making 4 curly cues. The one that drapes over the front of its eye is a little bit smaller. So I'll do that one first, and I think I'd like to make that the purple one. So I'm going to put these 3 colors back over here. We're going to, oh, I'm getting tangled up already. Again, we're going to use our 3.5mm hook, and this time we're going to make sure we leave a little bit longer of a tail on the front because they just kind of tie. I just pull them through and tie them around, and then I like to hide the yarn inside the head. So I'm going to leave a good sized tail to start off with, and we're going to make a slip knot, tie, and for the smaller one we're going to chain 16. So I don't know if you made these curls before, but they're just a series of single crochets and chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I don't do it too tight but not too loose. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. On the second chain from the hook, not this one closest to the hook, but the one beside here, we're going to do 2 single crochets inside that chain. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets in every chain the rest of the way back, and then you'll see how it curls up. You can do 3 single crochets each, but then that just makes it, for this small of a piece, it makes it too lumpy. So I like to have just 2. So then we'll do 2 single crochets all the way along in each chain. Like I said, you can make them any color you like. I just think they should be different than the ears and the horn. I shouldn't talk while I do this. You can see how it's curling, but it's kind of flat right now. You have to coil it up when you're finished with it. I lost track here. 1, 2, 1, 2, and do it all the way up to the end. 1, 2. And then do my little chain 2 thing, and then you cut the end, so go down here, as long as you had the beginning string, or tail, I guess you call them, and then that you're going to use that to tie on. But you see how it comes out in this lumpy little thing? Then you have to just take it and curl it into the little curl that it should be. And there you go. That's the first one. And that's the one that's just going to drape over the front brow. Now the next 3 that you're going to make, I'll do yellow next. You're going to do exactly the same thing. Leave a nice sized tail. You're going to chain 21 instead of 16. And then that way the curls going down the back of the head will be just a little bit longer. So I'll just do this next one, and then you can 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And then same exact thing, starting in the second chain from the hook, not this one, but this one, you're just going to make 2 single crochets. So I can pull that. In the next chain, 2 single crochets, and so on, all the way till the top. This is very funny yarn. It splits so easy. I'll have to be more careful here. I'm not pulling it snug enough while I'm using it here because I got it in a little ball behind me. Okay, let's just do this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way along. See, it curls up so funny. One, two, 1, 2. So you can go ahead and make your remaining curls, chain 2, and then try to, I don't know why, it's not even that important that they're the same length. It's just easier when you're pulling the thread through. And then this time I'm gonna curl it up here as I go. And just to show you that this one is a little bit longer than the first one that we made. So go ahead, make your other 2 curls, and then I'll meet you back here and show you how to attach them. Okay, I'm back. I've finished making my curls here. So now we have the horn, the 2 ears, and the 4 curls, the 1 shorter one and the 3 longer. What we're going to do is we're going to attach, first we're going to attach the horn and the ears, and I'm going to show you how I mark it. I like to attach everything on top of the head before I sew the eyes on, in case I'm off by a stitch or something. It can all be corrected. So the horn placement, I'm going to put it 3 rows back from this ridge. You can see better sideways, the little ridge where we are going to be putting the eyes. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 rows back. Actually, I better do 1, 2, 3 rows back. And then I'm going to try and make sure I get it in the middle. If you kind of judge with the little circle in the middle there, you can guess that that's the middle. I think that's going to be the center of my head. I guess that's a good center. And then the ears, I'm going to make a marking for the ears about 3 rows back from where the horn's going to be. So the horn is going to be sewn there, but it's also going to take up the next couple of rows back. So you want to make sure the ears aren't too close to being stuck on the horn. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3 rows back, and then I don't like them to go too far to the side of the head, so I'm going to do like this. And then as you're sewing them on, if you change your mind, you can go in front of the marker or behind it. Just make sure you do the same on the next ear. This is where I had to decided I have to start marking things because I've sewn things on crooked so many times. So now this is the center of where the horn is going to go, and our ear marking is along this ridge, and it's 1, 2, 3 stitches back from there. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 stitches back, and then I'm going to do, did I do 2? Yeah, I'm going to do 2 on there. So now I give it a little bit of a gander and see if that looks right. My ears might be a little too high here. Let's see. Oh no, that's not really so high. All right, we're going to start. Just got to jump in and do it. spread my, my stuffing's going to have to be pushed as I go. I don't know if I put too much or I didn't fluff it up enough. But again, I got this little knot here, so I'm going to tuck that in here. Give it a little hiding spot. I'm going to put that knot towards the back anyway. And I'm going to just, since this is going to be the front of it, I'm going to go in the back. I'll just start like this. Come right back out through the back. And then the same as when we were doing the dinosaur head, you can fidget around with it as you go. Just keep trying to check it and make sure it's coming in the center of the forehead. So now we came out here. I always start out a little loose as I'm going, and then I give it a little tug to tighten it up once I have it in the right spot. And then we're going to do out this one. Oh, I got this little pink thread from. It's bugging me though. Tuck it in there. And then down here, we're going to go make sure we don't sew in the black thread in the middle of our stitches, because we're going to pull that out after. Okay. I usually have my stuffing popping out like that. It's kind of cuckoo. Now that I'm coming around the front here, I'm going to do my stitches along the same ridge here. Make sure I'm getting it centered. This is where you can play around with it a little bit. Have to see, I feel like I'm going more towards this ear than that one, so I'm going to back up a stitch or two. I feel like I'm right here. I went off course a little bit. I should be over here. Well, that's the thing, you can just kind of play around with it as you go. I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to pop out this side. Now, I'm going to see how, oh, much better, much better. Come back out this side. And now I'm going to go back and around the front ridge here, front edge I should call it. Go back up this one. Just kind of work around the stuffing there so you're not getting the stuffing caught on the outside. And I'm going to push it up as you go. Now it's looking a little more centered. If you found that you were doing it a little too far one way than the other, what you also can do is go in and out of the same stitch a couple of times to nudge it one way or the other. Do one more stitch right at the very front here. Oh, jeez. And then I'm going to go back, start going back towards the back again. You can see now, oh, my ears are here and I'm more towards the center of the ears. You just have to kind of do that as you go along and keep fussing with it so you get it right. Otherwise, I have sewn it on crooked or cockeyed or whatever you want to call it many times. Just gonna put my stuffing back in that way. Make sure it's perky. And pull it down towards the back here. There we go. Now it appears to be where I want it. I'm going to pull my string out there. Now, if you want to be super safe, what you can do before you knot it or anything, you can just leave this string loose. Don't tighten anything up until you put the ears on and make sure that everything's okay, and then you can tie them all off at the same time. So I'll show you that way, just in case I don't like the placement of it. But the eyes are going to go down about here, and then the two little eyelashes, so it's got a couple of rows. And then in the back, you can see there's a couple of rows between that and where the ears are going to go. I think it's going to be good. And you don't put any stuffing inside the ears. We want them to be flat. Do my little, try to hide my knots. You still see them sometimes. And now, the way the ear is going to fit, I only marked 2 little spots there, but the ear is going to fit over top of where they would be. So we'll start on the outside of this line here, and then we'll bring it right up inside the ear. If you make the ears too big, I find I could have went to 12 stitches around, but if you make the ears too big, then they're harder to keep standing up straight. They don't have any stiffness to them. So I'm going to pull this out of my way, and now we're going to go the row behind. We're going to pick up that. So you can do it in one swoop, but you don't want to pull it that tight, or pull it open that wide so you see the white through it. I'm going to go in this lane behind it. So we're just sewing between this side and this side. I have kind of a row and a half in between there. And the more room you put between it, the more it stands up better. If you put it, just sew it on one single row, it tends to be a little bit more floppy. Ask me how I know this, is because I've done it many times. And now we're going to go on the other side of the black yarn here. And then back out. And sometimes at the corner it's good to go in and out the same stitch, because it gives you the opportunity to pull it and not make the ear look like it's caved in this way. You kind of have to play around with them. Now I'm gonna, oops, I shouldn't have come out that one. I should be coming out this one. I want to have that row and a half in between. And then pull this next stitch forward, and that's gonna have our ear standing up more perky. And then when you go back in here, you're gonna still sew along the same row. The weird thing about this is that these rows aren't entirely straight. When you're sewing on this one, if you have the head at a certain angle, this might change into that row, because we were sewing around in a continuous circle and not having one straight line. Now I'm going to take my marker out. I feel confident. And as you're doing it, give everything a nice little tug to make sure that there's no string showing in the back there. Here again, we're going to come in there and right out wherever you can get out. That's just a little bit away from it, because you see how it looks like it's tucked under. We're going to pull up here and we're going to tug that down. And then now his ear is nice and perky. I'm going to pull up on here a bit just till I get myself a knot. I'll tug everything tight. And now we're going to hide that inside. Give it a little bit of a tug. Go back gently. Oh, don't have much room there for 3. That's why I like to leave the tails long. I think I said this before. Just so I have lots of times that I can sew the tail in and out. I don't like to leave it too short, because these little things get tugged and pulled on. And look what I did. I tied that tail off inside, and I didn't tie this one. So if anything has to move now, it's going to be it's going to be the horn. I don't take my own advice. Our next ear. I could just stop the video and tell you to sew the other ear on, but I'm going to torture you and make you watch me. I'm just going to go in and out twice till I'm at right at the corner here, and it looks a little bit neat. My ear's the same size. One looks more perky. All right, and then the same thing. I'm going to start not where the string is, but on the next stitch outside of it. I'm going to do all the way over here. Right back into my ear. And this very first one, I don't pull it too tight, because when I come back around again, I probably will need to stretch this out a little bit. And I'm going to be sewing along, I want to sew along this ridge. So next stitch, I'm going to have to go down here, and I'm going to be coming out in the row in front. I haven't tightened it up yet. Oh, I'm doing everything too loose now. All right, now, just so I have everything where I'm going to want it, this ear finishes about here. I need this ear to finish here, so I can tell right off the bat that I've put it too close. So I'm going to redo that very first stitch. Living and learning here when you have to take things out. I might end up cutting this whole ear out of the video after all. Now, I don't like that. I'm going to come all the way back out here. And then back up there. Then I'm going to go out here. Now we'll see how close we are. As we're still sewing along the right line. I want to make sure it's the same finger distance. I'll pull my whole string out again here. And now this is going to be the last stitch there, because that's about my finger width away that I had it. I'm going to take this stitch out here as soon as I mark it there. There we go. I've pulled this one a little higher. There we go. Now we're going to sew around the back. We want to make sure we follow along the same line here, so we're going to do a couple of stitches in the next row back here. See my little knot there, so I'm going to try and pick up nicer stitches than my knot. And I'm back around the side. So now, before I tie this end in, I'm going to make sure that my little ears are the same. I think they're going to be good enough. And I'm going to do give everything a little tug. Do my little knot. Now I'm going to tuck that right underneath, through the stuffing, give it a nice little tug here. I came through you have to watch out if you come in between the threads there. You don't want that pink to show anymore. It's better when you're poking it through that you come in between the stitches like this. That was a close one. And I have room to hide it one more time. Just make sure you go right back in the same spot. There we go. Now I can sew in the end of the horn because they look nice and even. I don't have to move anything. Make myself a little knot. Oh, maybe I shouldn't make the knot in the same one that's loose here. Now I'm gonna have to pull up. And an extra tug. Go back underneath the horn. And give it a good tug there. And I'll go through one more time. I like to do at least 3. There we go. All right, that was stressful. Okay, now we got this. We're going to do the curls before we put the eyes on. So the next thing we're going to do, the shortest curl is going to hang from here into the front, and we're going to do a little stitch here to tack it down so it's not in the way. So what I do is I just use my hook, and I decide between the ear and the horn, there's this little group here or here. You can make it as thick as you like. It's just, I don't want it to be too thick. And then I pull the other string through the next one, just so I'm tying them on tight, because I don't know if this is going to get picked up by the hair or what's going to go on with it, but I like to give it a nice 3-time knot here. I'm doing it this way because this is going to flop over top of that, but I'm going to take one side and I'm going to tack this. I'm going to tuck it in here, and I'm going to tack this about halfway down. So I'm going to come out about here with this one. I'm going to tug my knot in there as well at the same time, and then I'm just going to come through where, maybe here, just one of those edges, and just give it a little tack. A little bit of a knot. There we go. And then you can see that it's going to be in there. I should tie it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and hide it anyway. Oh, I do that sometimes. Worst case, if you do that, then you just have to pull it back through the other end and try it again. That's 2. The other ones you can pull both threads through at the same time. It's just because I tacked this one down, I'm doing them separately. And I see how I made a little dimple there. You gotta stretch it back out, and then you make that curl the way you like, and then you tie in this string tail. You're gonna go right back through where it came from. The first one I do a little bit close so I can make it, I can tug it the way I like. And then I'm going to go back out in here, go through the stuffing. There we go. And then that's the purple guy. Next, we're going to do the 3 in the back. I think I'll put the yellow in the middle. And what you're going to do, what I do is I put them in a little V shape. You can put all 3 across here if you really want to. But what I do is I put one in the front, and I'll do it here, and then I do 2 in the back row. This way first. Oops. Take the, it's going to sit this way. I want to take this one through. Just pull that one through. And then this one, we're going to tie. So I could pull it on this side too. Could do. There we go. That way. Just the best way that you can hide anything underneath is going to work out best. I always do so many knots, and in this case, because we're not threading anything else through, we can hide both tails at the same time. So I'll thread this one. I'll thread that one, and I did 3 knots up here of that, but then you want to try and go back as close to here as you can before you hide the first one. Give everything a nice little tug, and then that way, oh, I uncurled my own little curly hair, and then that way it's in a nice and neat, and you can't see too much with the knots. And I'll carry them over here, and then I'll carry them back this way. Give a little tug before you cut it, and then you won't see it. And then that little curl is going to go here, and then these two we'll put on the, I'm going to put that over to one side. And then these ones, we're going to skip a row, and then we're going to go in here. So we'll do the same thing. We'll put one on that side. I'm going to try, I'll show you about the other way that I do it. I don't always, I think that way it pulled it over a little bit too far that side. So what I'm doing is I'm just pulled it in on one side, and I'm going to tie my knots. Make sure that they go tight underneath. I do three good knots, and then I'm going to tie the end in. And why am I not making this even? What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and go right back in the same hole here so I can pull that little knot in the back there. Make sure you go through some stuffing too to give it some substance. Give a nice little tug. And then another good tug. That's that guy. Okay. Last hair we're going to put, I'm going to do right here like this. Tight. 1, 2, 3. I find it hard to thread them through when you don't put the tail ends the same size. Don't know if that's just me. There we go. And then again, we're going to go right back into this hole where we want to pull the knot through. My worst case scenario, if these get tugged on, the knots might show somewhere down the road, but if you tie them off in through the stuffing, it helps. There we go. Now that wasn't so painful. There's our guy. Our little hair is gonna show like this at the back. There's his little front curly. Okay, now we're going to do the eyes. We're going to measure about, not at the end of the ear, but in a couple of stitches from the ear, and I want to put them along this ridge, and then the lashes are going to go back a bit. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and I'm going to go in here. I just hope these are long enough here. And then I'm going to come back. You just got to hang on to this thread here. I'm going to come back underneath again, and then I'm going to skip the 2 in the middle. I'm going to come right here. Make sure this, yeah, that's going to be long enough. And then I'm going to make sure I have 1, 2 in the middle, and I'm going to come back here. I don't want to go directly underneath here to make the first lash, because it's gonna pull down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under, and I'm going to go over for where I will be putting the second lash. Actually, will be probably here. You kind of have to do it a few times before you figure out where you're going to put everything. And then I'm going to come down here and kitty corner over to here. So that's going to be my first lash, and then this one's going to go right back in the same spot, and I'm going to be coming right back out the other eye. There you go. My curly hair's in the way a bit. Now I came out this spot, but I don't actually want to be there. I want to be over where I'm going to put the lash. So this one, this string makes it look like it's a little far over, but I'm going to be putting the second lash over here. So I want the first one to be here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out right there like this. And then I'm going to put this first lash down here, and I'm going to come up where the second lash is going to come out. And I'm going to put that right back down in the same spot. Come back out this side again here now. I don't want to... There we go. Now I'm going to come right back down here and go out here where I'm going to tie my strings off. Now, if you would like that to be a little bit thicker, you can do a another round of it, but I like it the way it looks. It's I like a nice thin line. You're going to tie this in a knot, and then we're going to have to tie these strings in. Again with the shorter one. If you find it's too short, I could have left the end a little longer there. If you find it's too short, make sure you pull it down to the eye of the needle before you pull it. And if it's really short, like mine, once you get the needle in, you might need to pull it out again. And we're going to just go through some stuffing and pull this out here. Make sure we're not going to lose that small end. And then take out that longer one, and then that's our little eyeballs. Now I'm going to separate these because I do want this little end to go in again, and I don't have much room. That's what I like to do. Put the needle in first. Oh, I did. There. I'm going to give that one an extra little tug in there. And then also this one in. And this one I can bring through a couple of times. I don't have a body made for this unicorn here at this time. But all you need to do is make one of the little hexagon bodies by going back to the first video with the body and the arms and the legs, And then you can attach the head. There's our little unicorn guy. So now we have the dinosaur guy and the unicorn guy, and they have both the same shape head. The next video I'm going to show you how to do the bunny and the bear, and they both have the same shaped head. And then I'll have one more video with the cat and the owl, and they have the same shaped head. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it works out for you. Leave me some comments if you think I go too fast or too slow, or any comments at all are welcome. Thank you.